Welcome. We're going to go, we'll call this One Point City doors, windows, and sidewalk. Okay, so let's just start out with the sidewalk. Okay, so we know that things that go far away from us is going to get smaller, okay, in theory. So when we go to dice up these sidewalks, you guys know when you walk down a sidewalk, usually about every 3 feet there's a crack, a little separator, a little divider. So in theory, those dudes are going to get closer together or smaller on the way up. Now, if you want to measure, you can lay down and measure these out. You guys have walked on sidewalks enough to know if something looks right, okay? So I'm just going to set up one side, and don't worry about both of your sides having lines in the same spot. If I'm out here walking on Main Street, I can guarantee the north sidewalk doesn't match the south sidewalk on where these dividers are, okay? So let's just start it out. I'm going to start one, and about every 2 or 3, I'll start getting smaller. So we want them to go left to right. They're parallel to your horizon line. Don't give me tilted lines. It's going to look like sidewalk at the fun house at DuQuoin State Fair, and we don't want that. Okay. So notice now I'm getting some closer together. Once I get past this building up here, I'm going to really get my lines in a little longer as we go down. That's my curve. That'll be where our sewer drains and whatnot go. Okay. So now we're starting to get a little bit of depth and distance. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up the doors and windows on this side like we did in our last video. Then we'll kind of walk across the street and do this side. Okay, so let's think of this like an old East Coast city where the buildings are very old, a couple, 100 years old, 150, what have you. Most of the time, things would stay uniform. Okay, so we're going to establish things on the front, then use that for the side. Okay, so you can see where the hint of my horizon line was. Well, I'm going to say this is maybe a 2-story building. So all I'm going to do up here is I'm just going to put a couple windows up here. I'm going to make tall rectangles. They're going to be above the horizon line. I'm just going to do tall, skinny rectangles. I'm not going to measure anything. I'll start out just by kind of like drawing a big rectangle, then I'll divide it into 2. And remember, maybe a lot of this building is off the paper. It's like a photograph. Maybe everything couldn't fit in a photograph. Okay? Okay, so maybe and I'm just going to use those lines to help me set up, the ones on the bottom. Off a little bit. That's all right. Okay, doors and windows are going to need to have window frames. Okay, so when you want to look at door frames or window frames, you can think of it as one of 2 ways. I just think of it as redrawing windows inside of my windows. I don't go on the outside just because I've already got my height and width set up, and that can kind of mess up a drawing sometimes, so I just kind of put them on the inside. So we've got the front. We're going to use these guys to establish the height of the windows on the side. We'll go windows here and maybe a door here. Okay? So what I'm going to do, we're going to use these two corners of my window here, and they're going to help me establish the height of my windows down the side. So here's what I want you to do. First things first, just set it up into one big rectangle. Now let me ask you a question. If I have two windows here, which one's closer to me, the right or the left? Well, the right one's closer. So I'm not going to divide them in half. This one needs to be, if it's closer, it's bigger. So I'm going to make sure that the one on the right's a little bit wider than the one on the left. So notice this one's not as wide as that one. Okay, the top and the bottom came from the vanishing points. The same way when you go to do your window frames. Okay, these window frames, the top and bottom will come from your vanishing point. They'll be connected. By up and down line. So I used those two corners. Okay. Now it depends on where your wildings, your windows are on the bottom half. Okay. Now you guys know what looks right and what doesn't. You know, if I drew my door over here and I drew it coming up here, it's going to look like a garage door. If I draw it down here, it's going to feel like a doggy door. So, you know, you're going to have to go by what you think looks right. From here to here, I'd say that's halfway. You know, I'm going pretty close to where that window is on mine. Okay, I'm just going to center my door up. I'm just going to kind of get a line coming from my vanishing point, center my building. We'll send two straight down the sidewalk, just like we would. We're making our shape. So we'll do something with that door here in a little while. I may go ahead and just put a door frame on it, just because I can. Let's say for this building, let's go sign and door. Okay? Now here's a trick some artists use. Let's say for my door here. You could use, if this is pretty proportioned, you could use that line for that door. See that? And that'll set you up a decent height for that door. So whatever you guys want, if you want to just judge for yourself, or if you want to take from this line, okay? I'm going to put a sign up here, so it's just going to kind of be like a window that's not cut up. It's just going to look like one long deal. So the top and the bottom of it are coming from, you guessed it, the vanishing point. This is all above your horizon line. Now here's something I want you to take a look at. And if you're in class, I could zoom in. When I'm recording, I can't. So this line right here, if this is a sign hanging on my store, and it's a wooden sign or a metal sign or a big plastic sign, odds are it's not paper thin. It's going to have some thickness to it. Alright, so how do we make this sign look like it's got some thickness to it? Well, parallel lines. This line's up and down. Draw a parallel line to it and connect it. Looks like my sign's got some thickness to it. Simple little trick. Okay. Those are going to your vanishing point. I'm just kind of putting in some dots so you can. Okay. Well, let's just walk across the street here. Over here. Alright, so let's just say this is going to be a big shop, so we'll put a sign here. I'm going to go, some of my sign's going to be above the horizon, some of it's going to be below. Alright, if you want to measure it, fine. If you want to put a frame around it, this will be a sign, so it may have a different look. Okay. Now I'm probably still going to use this sign though to establish the height there. Okay, so I'm going to set this up. You don't have to do that. If you want your windows to be different sizes than the sign, that's fine. But I'm going to use those two corners. Now I'm going to do a set of 3. I'm going to keep them connected, similar to what's in my classroom. But if I have 3 windows, and then we're going down the street, just like over here, I had big and small. Well, now if I got 3, it's kind of like big, medium, small. Okay, so they're going to have to get skinnier. Notice I've made them less wide as I went down the street, so I got to get my okay. Big, medium, small. I'm also going to put my door down here. Top of my door comes from what? The vanishing point. 2 lines going down. I'm going to go a little wider. We may turn this into a double door. So if it's a double door, the door on my left is closer. So we're obviously going to have to make it a little wider. I'll go ahead and get my door frame in, and then we'll cut it in half. Or not half. The side's wider than that side. Okay, we're going to finish out. Like I said, you guys can pause and repeat as many times as you have. That's why I'm just kind of going through this. We broke a rule. This guy, our tallest building's in the background. Well, if this was a photograph, it would probably be less focused, a little more blurry, less detailed. So I'm just going to line this with windows. I'm going to put a door here. Your windows can be however they want. I'm just going to sometimes skyscrapers are just lined with windows. You can cut those in half if you wanted. And then now for our rows here, remember, just like we did over here, I'm going to have to, everywhere I made a row, let's cut up the lines for my side. So I'm going to go over those with a blue marker. Yours are going to be a little bit different. Yours may be just like mine. I don't know. Alright, there we go. Actually, forgot to dice them up, didn't we? Alright. So, by the time you're done, we should have windows, windows, door, door sign, sign, windows, door, windows, and a sidewalk.